name is Katie Weatherup, and I'm a shamanic practitioner, and I'd like to talk to you about a new 21-day intensive that I'm creating. It's designed to address the instincts and the fight or flight response. So one of the more challenging things about the human design is that we have this life-saving response to immediate physical danger that ends up being activated by emotional stress and environmental factors like loud noises and near misses in traffic and all of these kind of things. And it has a tremendously detrimental effect on the physical health, the emotional well-being, even on relationships. So it's well documented in our medical model, all of the physical reactions to having our fight or flight or adrenaline system turned on at a low level too much of the time. You know, we release cortisol and stress hormones and adrenaline, and it can produce anxiety and lack of sleep and depression and heart disease, and it shuts down the digestive system and the immune system, and really just has a tremendous array of negative effects on the physical health and the emotional well-being. And yet it's very, very difficult to address because it's hardwired into our biology. And one of the things that I absolutely love about my shamanic practice is that I have some very effective energetic interventions to interrupt this system and calm it down very, very quickly. And this has been one of the biggest game changers in my life. You know, as a child I was incredibly energetically sensitive, and so pretty much any time I was out in public I was pretty overwhelmed by the amount of stimulus. I remember as a child being quite dissociative. I would have these moments where all of a sudden, with absolutely no idea what had just happened, I'd be sort of witnessing myself from a distance, and it was very scary, and I didn't really have a context to understand it. And then I grew up and I learned some tools for dealing with the fact that I was energetically sensitive and some ways to filter and lessen the intensity, and my life got a whole heck of a lot better as a result. But I still had this legacy of the fight or flight response operating at a low level all the time in the background because that was just what I was habituated to. And I work with a lot of clients who either are people who grew up very energetically sensitive and or are people who grew up in a family of origin environment that was either physically unsafe or emotionally unsafe. And as a result, their baseline just ended up being activated all the time. And so on top of the sort of normal human, incredibly hair trigger fight or flight response, you have this activation that just is happening at a low level all the time. And so if your baseline is pretty high and pretty activated, it'll feel completely normal to you, but then it's very easy for it to spike much higher in situations where there's social anxiety or you're needing to talk in front of people, or you know, just a whole variety of things can really activate this to a rather devastating and overwhelming kind of level. And so for me, one of the biggest game changers was learning how to turn off the fight or flight system and establishing a new baseline that was much calmer. So now, even if I get triggered in the moment by something, my ability to return to center is an incredibly fast process. Also, being really present with it and having it be different, I notice when the fight or flight response gets triggered. A lot of us have just numbed it out because it's sort of like background noise, it's so normal. Whereas when you get the baseline calmer, you start to really notice, like, wow, I feel agitated, this isn't good. And so the awareness to apply my practices is much easier to come by because it's such an unusual event when I feel activated at this level. And, you know, it has so improved my quality of life. You know, I sleep better, I'm healthier, I don't get as sick as I used to get, and there's an easefulness in being present with people. I was so painfully shy. You know, if you've read my book on my kissing quest, the whole plan on the kissing quest was based on the fact that I couldn't for the life of me talk to someone of the opposite sex without blushing and stammering and wanting to run away, and this was really putting a hitch in my romantic life. And so, you know, it's a whole different story, but it gives you an example of just how painfully socially awkward and shy and activated I was, that I was so overwhelmed by what for now is a pretty basic situation of just being able to talk to another human being. And so if you've had this history of 20 or 30 or 50 years of constantly having your fight or flight activated, and that's what your body is acclimated to, it takes some focused attention to drop that baseline, to really turn off the fight or flight, not just in the moment as a one-time thing, but as a pervasive lifestyle change. So it's an intervention in your physical biology as well as your way of handling emotions and stimulus and all these kind of things. And so that's why I want to work with you in a 21-day intensive. And not only that, but what I can provide as part of this is very regular shamanic interventions to help calm that system. So you've probably at some time found yourself in the situation of being really aware that you were really, really anxious and really wanting to quiet that down, but finding it extremely resistant to anything you attempted, maybe deep, slow breathing or visualization or whatever. And some of that is just that when you're really activated, it's very difficult as the person on the inside without having really developed that muscle to be able to turn it off. And so having me go in 3 times a week for the course of the 21 days and work on your behalf to calm this down can really give you a leg up, as well as at the same time you'll be building your own muscle with the homework practices. And you'll receive a lot of different tools and a lot of different options to work with this, because I really don't believe that one size fits all for anything. And so having a series of things that you can work with and a series of tools so you can find out what works for you, I think is really helpful. We'll be addressing past life healing, because a lot of times our level of lack of feeling of safety didn't originate from this lifetime. It originated from a time when humans were not playing particularly well with each other, and also from childhood healing, because there just aren't as many options for a child to deal with a difficult situation. For example, when people pleasing feels like a survival kind of thing, where it feels like that feeling of just being so unsettled because someone isn't happy with you, even if it's not somebody you particularly like or esteem or want in your life, I would argue that part of that is an instinctual response, where back in the day of being hunter-gatherers or back in the day of being a child, we didn't have the option to leave toxic people. We didn't have the option to say, you have no boundaries, I'm not going to be around you. And so our survival depended on being in as good a grace as possible with everyone in our environment. And now in the modern era with more choices, it's a lot safer to be able to hold boundaries. We don't have to choose between survival and boundaries in the same way that we may have as a child or in other lifetimes. And so there's a lot of shamanic healing to help clean up those situations. And I'm just really excited to offer this program, to offer the intensive format, because of all the things in my life, getting the fight or flight deactivated so it wasn't my baseline experience has been one of the biggest game changers. My soul retrieval was another one where I was like, wow, this was really huge. And the turning off the instincts has been another one. The quality of life difference and who I am in the world, and just being able to express more of my essence, more of who I really am, because I'm not debilitated by the intensity of this experience that's happening inside of me. So what's great now, I'm not going to say I never get anxious or feel socially awkward or get activated, but now rather than having this uncontrollable thing that I hate happening to me, there's more of a gentleness of like, oh honey, you're really stirred up right now, okay, let's bring that back. And my muscle is really well developed, so that can happen very, very quickly. So I would love to offer this work to you. If it's something that sounds exciting and relevant to your life, I'd love to have a deeper conversation and offer you a free consult to see if this program might be a match for you. Before you commit to it, I will say that it's very important for getting the maximum results that you have time that you can set aside to do, 10 to 15 minutes of daily practices combined with listening to the different recordings and trying the different exercises and listening to the material and the healing journeys I'm doing and all those kind of things. And so if you're in a place in your life where you just wouldn't be able to do that work, you can certainly sign up for the program if you feel called. You'll get a lot of material and a lot of work on your behalf, but the combination of my efforts and my strong intention in providing this combined with your own strong intention and commitment to make this happen are what are really going to get the most effective and powerful results. So thank you so much for taking a few minutes to listen to this and to share my vision, and I very much look forward to moving forward with this program. So please do be in touch if this sounds exciting. You can learn more about me and my work at my website, which is handsoverheart.com. And again, my name is Katie Weatherup.